it's just like that law of the universe that, once you start paying attention to certain things, they pop up everywhere. I mean, that should be obvious, but it really felt more magical than that. It felt like I opened to this superpower of forging new connections with other men. And it was just so unexpectedly delightful. And I credit that first month, that first session, that reflection on what I and other men internalized about what it means to be a man.
Welcome to the Holistic Life Navigation Channel. I'm your host, Luis Mujica. I'm a somatic educator and nutritionist, and I'm here to explore every aspect of life through the lens of somatic psychology, nutrition, and philosophy. Let's dive in. Okay, everybody, I'm with Colin Safranek. He has been a co-facilitator in my Embodied Masculinity program, and he's going to co-facilitate next year's program. So I wanted to have him on here to talk a little bit about the program itself, a little bit about his personal work, and we'll see whatever comes up in the conversation for you to hear. So welcome, my friend. This is the first time being here solo.
Hi, thank you.
Yeah. Tell me, actually, why don't you tell the audience first, introduce them to you, your work, yourself, whatever you want them to know.
Yeah. Well, in preparing for this, I was thinking about how I found somatic work. And it kind of ties into, well, sometimes I feel kind of like the basic bitch facilitator.
That's good selling yourself. Tell me more about it.
Yeah. So I realized that I came to this work for a different reason than why it became really important for me. I came to the somatic work through the Feldenkrais method. And it's because I have done a lot of manual physical labor in my life. I've done a lot of carpentry and construction work and landscaping work and arborist work. And in my mid 30s, well, I guess my early 30s, I started feeling like the wear and tear. I started feeling injuries cropping up in my elbows and shoulders and wrists and knees and my lower back and stuff like that. And so I started getting curious about how I could address that, because all of the normal ways just felt like they were temporary fixes and then the injury would come back. And that's how I found the Feldenkrais method. And it became all about, I realized how much tension I was carrying when working with heavy equipment or power tools, for example, like a nail gun, like a framing nail gun. If anyone's ever used a framing nail gun, it's this big, heavy thing that makes this violent jolting every time you pull the trigger. And yet you also have to be extremely precise with it. If you're good, I mean, you have to get that nail right where you want it. And so there's this combination of handling heavy things and needing to be very precise. And I didn't grow up doing that kind of work. Like I didn't come from a blue collar family. I got into that work and I didn't have like generational wisdom on how to use my body in that way. I've always been strong and athletic, but I didn't know how to relax and be precise with heavy equipment. And so it started this whole journey of me focusing on my body while I was working and focusing on how to relax the tension that I might be holding, like in my grip on the nail gun or on the hammer or fill in the blank, the chainsaw, whatever it was, where I could get more into a expanded state and like something that you might call like in the zone, like Michael Jordan called it in the zone in sports, in a sports context. And I could become more in the zone and I wouldn't have the same chronic injuries continuing to get more and more intense over time. So it was this big aha moment for me of tension, of, oh, I hold tension when I'm focused on trying to get something right and get it precise. But I can do that without holding tension. The tension is not necessary. but
Mhm.
something in my body was telling me that it was necessary. There was some unconscious pattern where my body thought I needed to tense up in order to be accurate, in order to be good at what I did. So that's that was the entry point for me. Where it evolved though is I started seeing the connection between that very like basic bitch, relax your arm while you're holding a nail gun to, oh, right, I also tense up when I feel things are important relationally,
Mhm.
when I feel things are higher stakes emotionally. I tense up in a less tangible way. I experience constriction, which is a word I learned from you. Um, this is when I started noticing patterns in my relationship at the time. And I have to credit her for finding you and taking your intro course. And then she allowed me to audit that intro course. And I was super intrigued. And then I bought it myself and did the intro course myself. And that's when I met you. And so that's what opened up this whole other side of somatics, this relational piece, this emotional piece. And instead of building capacity to do work in a way where I didn't injure my body, I started developing capacity to be in relationship with others and hold space for others and not be defensive and
Mhm.
learn how to just be present with my own shit. Um, Without tensing up, without going into a reactive state, in a place where I could actually reflect and grow and change, and also experience so much more energy because it like unlocks those emotional
Yes,
energies
it
in a
does.
way where I can utilize them and direct them. Um,
Well, pause there
so
a minute. This
yes.
this is a beautiful introduction to how you got into somatics. There's nothing basic bitch about it. Maybe blue collar bitch, but I don't hear any basic bitch here. It's pretty beautiful because it. I love when doorways open in realms that they're usually not invited. Like most men that do blue collar, like what we're calling blue collar work or carpentry. My whole family is in that line of work. I'm the first that departed from that, just because I suck at it. I don't have the skill set that everyone had in their blood. But I love that something in you was saying, I want to learn how to hold my body with these kind of like aggressive, sharp, big, heavy tools and things that jolt me around. I want to hold my body in a way where I don't get hurt. I think that's an excellent introduction to this. And I don't know why, but I have to say this publicly. You're the hottest one on the team, Colin. Like, I just gotta say it. So you also have that going for you. But so besides those things that they need to know about you, tell them what work you do, what kind of coaching you do. Like, how did you get into then being an actual somatic facilitator, and what's that part of your journey like? And then we'll go into the program a bit.
Sure, sure. So it's been it's been kind of a windy road. And I wanted to focus on relationship coaching at first, and now I only work one on one with people. And
Mm.
and so far, I've only worked one on one with other men.
Oh wow, I
And
didn't realize that.
it seems that the type of men who are attracted to my coaching, my type of somatic therapy, also are looking to shift relational patterns with their significant other, so that they can become less defensive, less reactive. Maybe they can be more gentle with their children. Um, I also work with a lot of men who are just kind of waking up their ability to even identify the sensations that are connected with their emotional states. And that's another reason I kind of think of myself as basic, but I am proud to be basic in that way
Mm.
because I think maybe I can seem more approachable to someone
Mhm.
who would look at the world of somatic experiencing therapy or somatic men's work
Mhm.
and like sort of see it as a little woo or a
Mhm.
little just outside their comfort zone.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I like to kind of demystify those concepts and communicate them into perhaps a different audience than you would normally encounter in like our world, in your world, for example.
Yeah, I agree. I actually thirst for more of those people. I thirst for more of those demographics. I'm always trying to find ways to reach people who are the majority of the people around the world, like not the academics, but people who work with their hands and work with their body and are, in my opinion, much more salt of the earth. You know, they're much more in their body because they have to be because of the kind of work they're doing, rather than being in your head if you have more of an intellectual job. And so I love that you're opening the door for people that wouldn't think this is for them otherwise. And it's interesting because I remember when the reason why I had chose you and reached out to you about co-facilitating is for people listening, we have this private forum called Circle where people speak and share and such when they join the programs. And whenever one of the men in your cohort, you know, when you were just a participant, when they would write something really painful or really triggering, or even something that was a rupture between them and you or anybody else, you always had this really beautiful, neutral, secure way of responding. And I kept watching that happen. And that was one of the reasons I reached out to you and Naveed. You two were the only ones in that particular cohort that were like really engaged on Circle and were really speaking to the men this way of like, hey, I got you, brother. You can be pissed at me. It makes sense. I understand. It was so secure. It was almost like fatherly the way you came to it. Naveed's more like a brother or the cousin that likes to fuck with you a little bit. But you're, you know, I think, yeah, hopefully he doesn't take offense to that. But, you know, you had this like beautiful, like real fatherly energy. And I'm assuming it's the integration of this kind of work that you're talking about.
I remember when I was a participant in the men's group that it was this concept of containment, providing containment, holding space for others was really top of mind for me. And in fact, I was co-creating a program called The Art of Containment or something similar to that with a good friend of mine who does a doula training program out of Miami. Or I mean, it's online, but she lives in Miami. And she wanted to create something because she works a lot with like natural birth. So she's always talking to directly to clients, but then she created this program to train other doulas and to train other practitioners. And so she wanted to offer a resource for people who wanted to like improve their ability to hold space for people in heightened situations, like during labor and when something goes wrong and when, you know, they have this whole birth plan and then it has to be flushed down the toilet and people have to improvise and it just feels like the highest stakes possible. And so we developed this course about basically using all the tools I learned from you to self-regulate and a bunch of practices to do when you're like not in high stakes situations to help, like pendulation and all the basics to help improve your capacity to just remain grounded. I wonder. So, well, anyway, to finish that thought, like I remember being very much in that mindset and like welcoming opportunities of conflict, especially with other men, especially online, because in my past, I've had interactions online, like on Facebook, pre-pandemic, like arguments that really went south and I felt ashamed of them. And like, I loved the opportunity on Circle to experience people being activated and then being able to like repair and just be with it and not end up in some kind of shit show Facebook fight.
It's true. It's like, what a concept. You know, we can actually, and I remember watching that when it was going down in different situations, how shocking it was to the other participants that it didn't lead somewhere negative, that it led to more connection and more trust and more openness and vulnerability. And it was just a beautiful thing to watch, especially amongst men. But I'm curious, as a man, what from these years, because you've been in this now several years as a participant, co-facilitator, doing it again next year, what have you really gotten from the program that you think we need to highlight here? Not as a direct way to market it to people listening, even though those of you listening, please tell the men in your lives about this. It closes on December 15th, the registration. But what are some like the pieces you'd really pick, the highlights for you that were, I would say, very mind-opening for you that have helped you integrate even more, and now you have the language to teach more men?
Yeah. Um, so there's our very first month, we talk about the cinematic drag king. We talk about, what we learned. Uh,
Tell them
we,
what the cinematic drag king is.
okay, so the cinematic drag king are the representations of masculinity in our pop culture, that, and not just our pop culture, whoever's around us, the representations of masculinity that we as young boys absorb, take on, internalize, and think that, oh, that's what a man is.
Mm-hmm.
And during that first month, I think the most impactful takeaway for me, and I've noticed in others, is just, if you didn't already have compassion for other men, regardless of the posturing and that you may perceive in other men, regardless of the toxic masculinity you may perceive in other men, or any of the assumptions you might be making about the men you see in the world every day, if you didn't already have compassion for them, that first month really enhances it. And the reason
Wait,
that's
wait.
been
Tell me,
so,
for
yeah.
you, what brought compassion in for you? Like, what opened up?
um, I think
Like in your own life, I should say.
it's something about, well, when you reflect on how you've been influenced, when you reflect on the examples you were given and how you internalize them. And when I say you, I mean me. When I
Yeah, yeah.
reflect on those and how I internalized those examples.
Which were, tell us some of the examples you saw growing up so people listening can get a personal experience of this.
Okay, so the primary example would be my father, and the the things that I internalized were hyper analytical, hyper logical, hyper rational. Um, it's not that my father never showed emotion, but he clearly, or the message that I received was that what is valuable above all else is our intellect and our ability to analyze and judge what's around us.
Mm.
And there's a kind of hypervigilance that is internalized there, and a shutting down of the emotions, or a deprioritizing of the emotional side.
So the
And
emotional side for you is limited because of that inheritance.
yes, absolutely. Deprioritized, and um, hmm, yeah, kind of like saved for the most heightened situations.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah.
Because when it's always kind of deprioritized and pushed to the back, then it just tends to come out sideways in
Yep.
heightened activated situations, right? And so
Absolutely.
that's when I would see emotion, is like outbursts of it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so that's just one example.
Mm-hmm.
And when I reflect on that and how I internalized it as an adult automatically makes me have compassion for what my dad must have internalized as a young boy. And
Mm-hmm.
so now I'm no longer thinking about what my dad did to me. I'm just thinking about my masculine lineage, and um, that expands my compassion to everybody else's lineage and what they internalized and what they learned, and how it's just this big, long line, this cycle. And the result of that for me was not just that, oh, I go out, I drive out and I see that guy over there who's dressed in a way, behaving in a way that gives me assumptions about, how toxic he is, or that I need to be careful around him, or that I need to be guarded. Uh, it didn't just open my heart to those men.
Mm-hmm.
it also resulted in seemingly serendipitously finding friendships in really unlikely places and like really open, um, soft, like vulnerable men where I did not expect to find them and finding amazing connections. And it's just like that law of the universe that, once you start paying attention to certain things, they pop up everywhere. I mean, that should be obvious, but it really felt more magical than that. It felt like I opened this superpower of forging new connections with other men, and it was just so unexpectedly delightful. And I credit that first month, that first session, that reflection on what I and other men internalized about what it means to be a man.
Listen, do you hear something? That's the sound of warm, delicious, glorious Costa Rica. And this is where I am headed next. On February 28th, I'm hosting a week-long retreat at the stunning Blue Spirit Retreat Center. And it's going to focus on recovering from emotional eating and people-pleasing by finding safety within. And there's truly not a better place for me to teach this than Blue Spirit. Blue Spirit has created a literal sanctuary for wildlife, native plants, and people who are lucky enough to retreat there. Picture a vibrant jungle canopy atop a hill with a saltwater infinity pool, yoga classes, next-level local cuisine, and beautiful views of the land and sea. Not to mention the very special, magical experience of wading in the saltwater pool while a crew of little baby monkeys rests on the branches above you. Your room is situated just minutes from the most beautiful ocean I've ever met, with tide pools featuring everything from blue octopus to starfish and a rainbow variety of tropical fish. And yes, I will be personally introducing you to each and every one of them. So let's go into the retreat itself. I'll be joined by my dear friends Zach and Camille as we teach you the art of finding safety in yourself, especially as it relates to fawning and people-pleasing and eating habits, which are all very connected. I'm going to teach you how to eat to recover from stress and trauma, how to use food cravings as a compass for unmet needs, how to tend to your capacity for being seen and being uncomfortable so you can stop fawning so much, and how to embody and ground big emotions and sensations that arise in your body. It's an easy flight to the airport, and Blue Spirit will manage your transportation from there. Visit holisticlifenavigation.com and click on events for more information, or click on the link in the episode details. We will be waiting for you on the other side in glorious, warm, vibrant Costa Rica. It's beautiful as you're speaking and you're saying this piece that I'm hearing as overcoupling and uncoupling of these archetypes and these inherited archetypes and this kind of clothing, this look, this perception we put on based on what we inherited as to this is what a man is. This curiosity emerges when you realize we're all doing it. And for me, just like with you, the curiosity is who is behind that? Like, what is behind that? What does this man feel behind this posture, but behind the way he uses his voice, behind his haircut, like all these things? Because the archetype is something that we're imitating. It's like an emulation of something that came before us based on how we're supposed to be. But what I love about the somatics of it, and we've seen this time and time again in this program, by the end of it, these men are being as they feel. So it's not, I'm being this thing I have to emulate because that's what a man is. It's what kind of man am I, and how does this body move, and how does this body speak, and how does this body love and feel and touch, right? So it's a beautiful thing when the archetype is removed, the overcoupling, the stereotype, whatever you want to call it, when that gets removed for the presence of this is who I am in this moment. There's this beautiful freedom. And it has also contributed to me trusting more men. I used to be terrified of men or feel really intimidated by them. But now I'm more like, oh, they're just doing that archetype thing they were taught. This isn't actually who they are.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Um, yeah. So they're, well, yeah, I just wanted to take a beat and just appreciate that. My mind's already jumping to the next thing, but yeah.
Yeah, we can take that beat.
Yeah, because it really is beautiful. And even just in the last year, I can remember a handful of new relationships that I made in the like blue collar world, which is often associated with emotionally shut down men.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, I just, yeah, I was just so pleasantly surprised to
Hmm.
make some beautiful connections there.
And what else is emerging? You said your mind is going to the next thing. What is the next thing for you?
Well, so do you mind if I read something?
Please.
I'm going to go back to this idea of containment and holding space. And the reason I'm going here is because another, I don't know if we did this last year, but during one of the cohorts, we did focus on uh, like taking a month to talk about masculine energy and taking a month to talk about feminine energy
Hmm.
and developing both of those and the importance of divorcing our idea of feminine being associated with female and masculine being associated with male and focusing more on them as universal energies and that are kind of in polarity. And I really love this concept. I know you don't necessarily use the word polarity, but I like thinking about them as polar forces, universal polar forces. And the reason I like thinking about them as polar forces is because those come in pairs. They can't exist without the other. And that's really helpful when I'm explaining this to somebody, when I'm coaching someone through this, when I'm trying to demystify these words like polarity in a relationship or masculine and feminine energy. And I had to really think about this when I was creating the containment course. And so that's what I'm going to read. I'm going to read a little excerpt of what I was writing to prepare for this course. And first, it's just to demystify what containment and holding space is. So I say, holding space or providing containment is simply the act of creating safe space for someone with a specific intention or purpose, and then maintaining and protecting the boundaries of that space that you've created and ensuring that it continues to be supportive for the people involved. That's what holding the space is referring to. It means that you are responsible for keeping the space safe and on track with the intention. It is a non physical space that you're creating with your presence and your attention, as well as your intention. We can think of this space like a container. And this is why holding space is also called providing containment. You are creating an invisible, energetic container for someone so that they can feel safe and held and witnessed, and they can relax their defenses and express themselves freely, knowing they won't be judged, given unsolicited advice, or generally burdened with someone else's need for them to feel better, cheer up, or try to see the situation differently. Holding the space is allowing someone to be how they want to be without trying to change it, and being there for them with a calm and regulated nervous system. To hold space well, first you must learn how to self relate, attuning to your own internal somatic experience and facilitating your own body's process of nervous system regulation. In order to self regulate, you must first be present and connected to your somatic experience. Only then can you find regulation, safety, equanimity, even in a heightened or activating situation. Only when you can hold space for yourself can you truly serve and hold space for others. So I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit more. Holding space is masculine. Containment or holding space for someone is a masculine expression. It is the act of attuning to someone else, orienting to another body, actively listening and responding to their needs, exercising compassion, discernment, and leadership. If I want to do this effectively, I must also develop my feminine expression. I must be able to stay connected to my own internal experience, cultivate and conserve my energy, create capacity in my body for my own emotions so that I can remain present, connected, and attuned to another person and hold them in their experience. In other words, developing my ability to provide masculine containment requires that I also develop my feminine ability to alchemize or utilize or direct my internal emotional experience into potential energy and spaciousness. So that's a little. Yeah.
Pause there because I think that's the important piece. I think when you're talking about this exploration in the masculine, this exploration in the feminine, one thing that I intend for the men to do the whole 6 months, and what I see from a lot of them that share the results at least, is what you're saying right there in that last piece, is in this alchemy of letting both these energies come into your body, you have this perfect duality actually of I can be rigid in how firm and boundaried I am at holding a container. And I can be extremely perceptive, right? Take something in, pull something into me, and soften into the thing that I'm actually holding. It's this beautiful back and forth. And I remember in this one session in particular, when we were working with the feminine energies, a lot of the men were saying how much they didn't realize how they outsourced their femininity to their partner. These were straight men and how they outsource. And some of the gay men even said, I outsource it to my female friends or like my mother or my sisters. That the men in the group were realizing, oh, I burdened them with this feminine thing that I'm now learning how to do myself, or to hold something I don't know how to hold myself yet. Like they have to always be the soft one for me, essentially. And when they learn how to be that soft feminine and that hard masculine, just to give these, binaries, this incredible alchemy arises. So tell us how you've witnessed that either in yourself, in your clients, in our program, kind of in general, when a man invokes his feminine, how does it secure his masculine even more?
Well, I think what you mentioned about um, holding, receiving, witnessing, responding to men who were feeling activated on Circle, the platform that we use for offline or outside of the in-person Zoom sessions for communication. If you can, like you said, if you can uh, cultivate that internal fluidity, be able to feel your own emotions coming up and dance with them while maintaining that rigid containment, that firm containment, uh, then you can create that space for repair and healing and like allowing someone's storm to like crash into you or crash into the space. And like, it's okay that you might be feeling triggered by it, but dancing with it and being able to maintain that firmness of holding the calm, confident, fatherly containment and compassionate acceptance of their storm, even if internally there is some triggering happening, then that's it. That's right there. And we witnessed it many times in the group when someone was triggered or activated. Like those are actually my favorite memories of past cohorts, is like when some kind of rupture happened. And it's a privilege to witness you facilitating those repair sessions. It's, I mean, that's where I see it. That is probably the best example I can come up with.
Well, I want to add something to that because I think what makes that so potent is most men that we have worked with, I should say in general, and most men in general, unfortunately, had absent fathers of some kind. Again, majority, not all, but the majority of men. They don't have the example of falling apart and a man was there to hold them. Their examples is I fell apart and there were women there, or I fell apart and there was no one there. So they've gotten comfortable falling apart with women or in isolation. But it's very rare for them to be comfortable falling apart in front of another man, and the other man can just hold them and stay kind of like stern in holding them, but also really beautifully, like a bleeding heart in that feminine way of empathizing and giving them love and tenderness. So I think that's an interesting correction that happens in this program, this work, is a man is holding you, and most men have never had that experience.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that like, I'm smiling right now, and I think that's why I welcome those conflicts, those ruptures.
Yeah.
It's like a little bit sadistic, I guess, or I don't know if that's the right word, but like I kind of want think people to mix it up a bit, like,
Yeah.
and I think that's the beauty of this opportunity. And it's not just here, like I don't want to sell this as a place where you can come and like mix it up all the time,
Yeah. Yeah.
but it can give you some great examples of that you can take into your real life
Yeah.
of how to navigate those, and how to it may shift you. I know it's shifted me from being afraid of those ruptures to almost welcoming them and not seeking them out,
Yeah.
but seeing them as opportunities, to not only hone my own skill set, but also bring someone into deeper connection with me, especially another man, which is
Yes.
just like, it's a, it's even to this day, with all the work that I've done in this space, it still blows my mind. And it's like I feel like I'm in an altered state when I go
Mhm.
into that sort of interaction, especially in live with a real person in person. Um, and I thought that it was going to be easier to do that like with close friends from childhood. It's not. It's even more intense because you have all this like
Oh,
baggage,
yeah.
and then like bringing them into this new way of relating. I've been experiencing a little bit of that since moving back to my hometown a few months ago, and it's rich and wonderful.
Well, I love this because I'm hearing the statement I keep hearing in my mind is testing the container. Like
Mm,
when you say about, coming into the space and you can bring yourself and see if it creates rupture, not come mix it up on purpose, but if you have something on your heart and it triggers someone, we'll work with it. Because it's really about testing the container. Can these men hold me? Will they abandon me? Will they make fun of me? Will they, compete against me? These are the things most men hold against each other and the expectations they hold for each other is I'll be laughed at, I'll be made fun of, I'll be abandoned, I'll be competed with, overpowered, all these things. But to be with men that are rooting for you and say, I want to hold you, I want to be tender with you and be firm at the same time. It's like they're testing this container that they didn't get to test with their father developmentally because most of them didn't have that, relationship. So I think the testing of the container is what happens in these programs because the first month everyone's like, is this real? Can I trust these guys? Are people really crying? Are they really smiling? Are they really here for me? And then as it
mm,
goes on, they start realizing, oh, there's actually capacity here to connect. This is for some guys, they've told us in the program, they've never connected to men on the level they connect in this group because of the way we hold the space and kind of bring in these ideas. But then in between these big sessions with me, where we go over these specific ideas and archetypes and trauma histories and somatic practices, we have these incredible breakout sessions, these integration sessions in between every other week, which are co-facilitated by you and Zach and Stephen and Naveed. So they get this smaller group of this facilitator that's working with them the whole 6 months. So it's this blend of group practice and sharing with me and these smaller group therapies just for the men in an unrecorded space to go really deep and personal. So I guess what I want to say, because we have to start closing, what would you say to anyone listening to this that you'd want them to know why you would look forward to holding space for them in this particular program? Like, what makes you excited to hold men through these 6 months that we're going to do in January?
mm. Something that I find extremely gratifying and beautiful every time is when, either in the large group or in our breakout groups, when a man shares something that feels kind of scary to reveal, that feels very vulnerable, um, or just something that he's wondering about or confused about or dealing with and feels like alone with. And the beautiful thing is to then watch the other men light up
Mm.
in um shared experience, and connection, where they're like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for sharing that, because you're speaking to something that I know as well and that I experience as well. Um, and then over the course of the 6 months, the thing that melts my heart is the tenderness that emerges from that, where by the end, everyone's throwing up heart emojis
Mm.
and just like kind of pouring out their love to everyone in the group, their gratitude for the other men just showing up and sharing their experience. um that's the basic bitch in me. Like, I like all the other points that we could intellectualize about the amazing, growth opportunities. That is really what I look forward to, is like the
Yeah.
tenderness that emerges with a Zoom room full of men. It's
Count
really
me
unique.
in. Count me in on that, because that, I think, my absolute favorite thing, this goes for all the groups I lead, but this one with men in particular, my absolute favorite thing is when they unmute, because we do these sharing sessions, and they unmute. Everyone gets a timer. They get like 90 seconds, sometimes 2 minutes if we have extra time. And they say something like, I've never told this to anybody. They always start with, I've never said this before. And I'm always like, yes, you've never said this before. Bring it. We got you. And they start saying it, and they pause, and they start saying it, and I pause them. Their tears come. They start, and like you said, all these hearts go up. And then I pause and I say, anyone that's had this experience, like, raise your hand. Anyone that wants to share, unmute yourself and share yours. And they kind of reflect, oh my gosh, I did this too. I thought that was the only one. And you just see this man who was completely alone for decades with shame around whatever it was, suddenly coming back to life, realizing, I'm not a monster. I'm not disgusting. There's nothing wrong with me. This is something that happens when we're unsupported in development and puberty, with porn, whatever it is. So I live for those moments too.
Yeah, ditto.
How can people find your work? And then we're going to close.
Safranek.com. You can see kind of what I write about my coaching and therapy work, and fill out the intake form and book a session if you want. And then obviously by joining the men's program, I'll be there with the other facilitators and Luis. Yeah, that's about it.
Yeah, and I'll add, those of you listening to these podcasts, you've heard from the facilitators. You had Naveed's been on, Colin, Zach, Steven. If there was a certain man you listen to and you're like, oh, I'd love to be in his group, you can always request. It won't be promised, but you can make a request. So if you're hearing things Colin's saying, or the way he moves, or how he sounds, you just feel this sense of, oh, camaraderie, or I feel safe with this person. When you sign up, make sure to email us and just say, I'd love to be put in Colin's group. And we can try to accommodate those requests as much as possible. Colin, thank you. Thanks for being in my life and being part of this program. And thanks for coming on today.
Yeah, thank you as well, Luis. Also, I wanted to say that I love you, and because you're always calling us your loves, you're calling me your love and saying you love me, and it's still to this day something that's difficult for me to say, but I do. I love you.
Oh, I love you too. Thank you for that. Feels so good. Thanks, love. Thank you for watching today's episode. Please like and subscribe if you found it useful, and let me know in the comments what you want me to cover next. I have developed a 4-week self-paced course that takes 18 years of my personal and professional experience and puts it into one place where you can easily and quickly learn the foundations of recovering from stress and trauma. How does the food you eat affect your stress levels? How do the relationships in your life create stress or peace? How does the relationship you have with your body allow you to feel happier and more settled? I will cover all this and so much more in this 4-week self-paced course. And the best part, it's self-paced. You don't have to sign up at a certain date or finish it at a certain time. It's yours for life, and it's waiting there for you when you're ready to finish it. Throughout this course, I'll be teaching you philosophies and practices that combine my 3 favorite modalities: somatic experiencing, embodied parts work, and nutrition. For more information on this course, click on the link in my episode details. On September 6th, I am leading the most majestic retreat I have ever led to date. I will be flying myself and my entire team over to the UK at the enchanted Broughton Sanctuary, a 3,000-acre retreat center that's currently being rewilded with native plants and trees to restore it to its indigenous roots. And I'm hosting a retreat called Finding Safety in Yourself and Others Through the Land. Anyone who joins gets to experience a week of learning from me and my team, in addition to demos, collective somatic ceremonies, lectures, delicious bean-based meals, and deep connection time with this special, special land. Our classroom is a portal to pleasure called Avalon, and it includes an indoor swimming pool, sauna, steam room, hot tub, and lounge. And get this, it's all ours, completely private for the entire week. For more information, please visit holisticlifenavigation.com and click on events, or check out the link in the episode details. Spots are limited, so make sure to reserve yours now.